Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Dependent Fanatic channel on this 4th of July weekend. I hope you guys are all have some good plans and have a great time this weekend while being safe, of course, with them fireworks. Today is the start of my prediction season, and we're starting with the Big Ten, of course, and we're starting with Purdue. In the West Division, we're going to work our way from the bottom up to the top in both divisions. And here we go. Jeff Brom is gone. A lot of their impact players are gone. It's going to be a struggle for Purdue, in my opinion. They start with Fresno at home, who went 10-4 last season, which is what these numbers here indicate. And I think Fresno will take a step back, but I also think Purdue will take a step back. It's at home, and if they don't win this game, then what other games are they going to win? I have to give them a win for Fresno at home. At Virginia Tech, I think, is a loss. Syracuse is a loss. Wisconsin, Illinois, at Iowa, Ohio State, at Nebraska, at Michigan, Minnesota, at Northwestern, all losses. So 10 losses in a row before they end their season with a win over their in-state rivals, Indiana. So 10-2 for Purdue in year one under their new head coach. Next up is Pat Fitzgerald and the Wildcats. Northwestern are at Purdue, at Rutgers, which I think they will lose. And then they come home to beat UTEP, of course, at Duke, Minnesota, Penn State are all losses, but they have Howard at home. That should be a win, I hope. At Nebraska, Maryland, Iowa, at Wisconsin are all losses. They'll beat Purdue at home, and then they lose to Illinois. A 3-9 record projected for Northwestern. Nebraska, I think, will take a big step forward. They are at Minnesota, which I think they will lose, but at Colorado, very winnable. Coach Prime and all his transfers, they can win that game for sure. Northern Illinois is a win. Louisiana Tech is a win. And then Michigan is a loss. At Illinois is a loss. Northwestern, Purdue, at Michigan State, Maryland are all wins for Nebraska. At Wisconsin is a loss. At Iowa is a loss. So 7-5 record for Matt Rhule in his first season, and they make a bowl for the first time since 2016, which is kind of crazy to say. Illinois is next. They have Toledo at home. That's a win. I think they go down to Kansas and beat Leopold's team. And then they have Penn State at home, which is a loss. FAU, at Purdue, Nebraska are all wins. At Maryland is a loss. Wisconsin, they get at home. So that'll be interesting. Brett Bielema versus his old team. I think he gets the job done at home. And then they have their bye. And right out of that bye is at Minnesota, but I think they lose that game. Indiana at home is a win. At Iowa is a loss, and Northwestern is a win. So 8-4 record for Illinois. Slight drop off from last season. Minnesota comes in next. They are with PJ Fleck. Nebraska, have Nebraska at home is a win. Eastern Michigan is a win. At North Carolina is a loss. But then at Northwestern, Louisiana are both wins. And then Michigan is a loss. At Iowa is a loss. Michigan State, Illinois, at Purdue are all wins before they go to Ohio State and lose. And then they finish with a win versus Wisconsin at home to go 8-4. And that gives them the tiebreaker over Illinois. Now, your second best team in the division is Wisconsin. Wisconsin has Buffalo at home, which is a win. I think they go out to Washington State and win that game as well. Georgia Southern win. At Purdue is a win. Rutgers, Iowa are both wins. At Illinois, like I said, I think they lose that game. and they'll lose to Ohio State at home. But at Indiana, Northwestern, Nebraska are all wins before they lose their final game at Minnesota. 9-3 record for Luke Fickell in his first season. And now the Hawkeyes of Iowa. Utah State is a win. At Iowa State, win. Western Michigan is a win. They lose their first game at Penn State. I struggled with that one, but I think, Happy Valley is a tough place to play, and it is a top 5 team in the nation. They'll lose that game. Michigan State, Purdue are both wins before they go to Wisconsin. I think they lose that game in Madison, jump around. That whole atmosphere is going to be electric. These two teams are going to be vying for the division title. I think Wisconsin wins the game, but Iowa wins the division. Because Minnesota, at Northwestern, Rutgers, and Illinois are all wins, and at Nebraska are all wins for Iowa to end the season, and they go 10-2. Let's move over to the East Division. And again, at the bottom is another Indiana school. I didn't plan it that way. That's just how it all worked out. Indiana has Ohio State at home in the first game of the season. That is a loss. But they will beat Indiana State. And then their neutral site game versus Louisville, I think that is a loss. Akron at home is a win. And then at Maryland and at Michigan are both losses. Rutgers at home is a win. But at Penn State, Wisconsin, at Illinois, Michigan State, and at Purdue are all losses for the Hoosiers. I think 9-3 is a good record for them. Michigan State is next. The second worst team in the Big Ten East, which is a dominant division in college football. CMU at home is a win. Richmond is a win. At Washington, there's no way you win. That's a loss. Maryland is a win. And then at Iowa, at Rutgers, Michigan, at Minnesota, Nebraska, at Ohio State are all losses. Before you go to Indiana and win that game, and then you lose at home to Penn State to end the season. 4-8 for Michigan State, and they will miss out on their second bowl game in a row under Mel Tucker. Rutgers, yes, Rutgers is going to be better. Greg Schiano, in his second stint, has brought this program almost to where it was in his first time around there. They have Northwestern at home, win. Temple, Virginia Tech, all at home, all wins. And then they are at Michigan, which will be a loss. They have Wagner at home, which will be a win. At Wisconsin is a loss, but Michigan State at home is a win. And then at Indiana, Ohio State, at Iowa, at Penn State are all losses before they have Maryland at home, and it's a game they must need because they have to win that game to go 6-6 and make a bowl, and I think they do. Next up is the Maryland Terrapins, the Fighting Mike Loxleys and Tunga Vailoa. Towson at home is a win, Charlotte win, Virginia win. Then they're at Michigan State, and I think they lose that game, but they could very well win that game. Indiana at home is a win, and then at Ohio State is a loss. Illinois is a win, but then they get their bye. At Northwestern is a win. Penn State at home is a win. I think that's probably the biggest upset of the Big Ten season. At Nebraska, I think, is a loss. Michigan loss, and at Rutgers is a loss. So a 3-game losing streak to end the season. 7-5 for Maryland. All right, now we have probably the 3 best teams in not only the division, but the entire conference, and 3 of the 5 probably best teams in the nation. The problem is they all play each other. Penn State will beat West Virginia, Delaware, Illinois, Iowa, Northwestern, and Massachusetts to start 6-0. But then they go to Ohio State. And it's always a fun game between those two programs. I have Ohio State coming out on top, just like most years. But I could see it going the other way. I could see Penn State going 9-3, or I could see them going 12-0. It just depends on how the ball bounces. Indiana at home is a win. At Maryland is a loss. Michigan loss. And then 2 wins to end the season against Rutgers and at Michigan State. 9-3 for Penn State. And the Buckeyes. Ohio State is at Indiana. That's a win. Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, both wins. And then you're at Notre Dame. Now, Marcus Freeman is in his 2nd season. Last year, it was a pretty close game in Columbus. This time, it is in South Bend. I'm giving the nod to Notre Dame this time. You can chirp about it in the comment section if you want, but I like Notre Dame here. With Sam Hartman coming in as quarterback and Ohio State still trying to figure theirs out. Maybe they have a handle on it by this time in the season. I just like Notre Dame here. Maryland, Purdue, Penn State, at Wisconsin, at Rutgers, Michigan State, Minnesota are all wins for Ohio State. And that leads into the game. They will be 10-1 leading into the game versus Michigan in the Big House. And I think they lose that game. They're going to want it badly. But Michigan is on a mission this season, in my opinion. I mean, they're doing portions of practice to get ready for Georgia. So that, if that tells you anything, I think 10-2 for Ohio State, which means I think only one Big Ten team makes the playoff this season. Unless the other conferences are just drastically pretty bad. And your final team, the winner of the division, I think, Michigan. They're going to win all the games, 12-0. The ones that give me concern are at Nebraska. It was a close game 2 years ago. But new head coach Matt Rule, we'll see how fast he can turn that around. And then at Minnesota for the Little Brown Jug, PJ Fleck is going to want that game as well. And then at Penn State in Happy Valley, we won there 2 years ago, but the 2 years before that we lost. So we'll see how that game goes. I like maybe a 1-score game. And then at Maryland is not going to be easy. It was a close game last year at home for Michigan, and it's right before Ohio State. So that's a tricky spot for Michigan. And then, of course, Ohio State at the end of the season. So what does that lead to? That leads to 10 of the 14 Big Ten teams going bowling, leaving out Michigan State, Indiana, Purdue, and Northwestern. So that sets up a Michigan versus Iowa rematch from the 2021 Big Ten Championship, where Michigan just obliterated Iowa. But I think it'll be a little bit different this time, a little closer, because Iowa has a Big Ten Championship quarterback now in Cade McNamara, as well as tight end Eric All from Michigan. So this is going to be a storyline game here. The castaway versus old team. I think Michigan just has too much firepower for Iowa to come out with the upset. There you have it. Michigan is going to go to the playoff at 13-0 again, and 9 other teams will be going bowling. So there you have it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please like the video. Remember to like every time and subscribe if you have not. Thank you if you have. And we'll see you on the next video. And that will probably be the SEC conference predictions. So hit the bell for notifications so you know when that video will be posted. And we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody. Have a great 4th of July weekend and stay safe out there.